You just talked to Dalton.
Sorry, what'd you say?
You just talked to Dalton.
Yeah, I did. Hang on, pause it. Oh, wait. Okay. So first, can you state your name and your occupation?
Amber Hickson, high school English teacher.
Yes. And where are you from?
Clarkton, Missouri.
Cool beans. What's the approximate population of Clarkton, you'd say?
I mm, am not sure what it is currently, but I would say 1,200.
Yeah, around there maybe. That sounds like a good Clarkton number. Um, how would you describe where you grew up like visually? So like it could be like you mean like you could be talking about the Bootheel in general or Clarkton or around the area you lived.
Um, well, it's a small town with a lot of farmland, a lot of cotton, a lot of corn. Um, you have to drive pretty far to reach the interstate.
Yeah.
Visually, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. And how would you describe like the people and the jobs and whatnot?
Um, Very limited job choices here, and the people are probably a little close-minded in some ways, but they don't mean to be, like they don't do it on purpose. They've lived very sheltered lives.
That's a good way to put that. I would agree with you. I think that everybody has a good little leaven in their heart. It's just that they haven't been broadened. I like that. Um, what did y'all do for fun growing up?
Oh, well, I'm Gen X, so you've probably seen all the Facebook stuff. We're like the people who were at nightclubs when we were 15, and we raised ourselves and went out on back roads, like it says, drinking, bonfires and such. There just wasn't a whole lot to do.
Yeah.
Riding around in our cars.
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little more on the bonfires? Like what would you so if someone like what is that like a hangout typically or like
It would a bonfire for us would be a place where only teenagers knew where it was. It would not be something that would be easily spotted, even off of a dirt road. You would kind of have to go back and off of a dirt road, and just kind of everybody would meet up there and drink and talk and play music, drink illegally.
the good stuff?
Of course, younger than that for fun is we did ride our bikes all day. Right, we could ride our bikes back and forth from uh, from one friend's house to another, stay the night at our friends' houses, stuff like that. We were outside a lot more, and um, you don't see kids do that anymore. But you asked me would I want my girls doing that, and I would have told you no anyway because things just aren't as safe as they used to be.
That's a good point. That's very true. What would you say are some like specialties of where you grew up? Like some things that people from a bigger place wouldn't be familiar with.
Um, well, I don't know. I mean, I do know. Well, it just depends on. I feel like some people have never seen actual cotton fields. Um, I know which this is pro. I don't know if you mean opposed to like where you are or like in general.
Just something that you would say is like special about home that isn't similar to bigger places. Just bigger places in general.
Well, I know Macy had a friend who is from Hawaii, and she took her. the girl the she actually has just really flown back and forth from like Hawaii to St. Louis,
Mhm.
and Macy brought her to the Apple Butter Festival, which is in Kimmswick. So they had to drive down the interstate, and she had never seen trees that were changing colors during the fall. So it just depends on how much someone has traveled and the different places they've seen, I would think. I know some people have never seen cotton or cotton fields or like cotton when it's bloomed or, actual watermelons being pitched in a
Yeah,
field.
that's true.
I
Yeah.
can't,
A lot of farming. That is that is a pretty
yes.
specialty back home. Um, are there any phrases that are commonly used that you're familiar with?
Uh, well, one of them I was thinking about is that we call when we eat dinner, a lot of people here call it supper.
Mhm. Yeah.
Thought of that one because I was going to tell you that I was in the middle of kind of making supper.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I say that sometimes and sometimes I don't. Another one is when I was a waitress at Portageville. If it was like if my boss asked me if I had done something, I would tell him I'm fixing to if I haven't, and he would say, "Oh, it's a Southeast Missouri fixing to." So it's like Fixin.
Yep.
It means you're about to do it or you're getting ready to do it, but it's fixing to.
Hmm.
And then another one my grandmother used to say is messing and gammon.
Mm,
And that
yeah.
just means that when I was little, when she would babysit me, it means I'm doing a craft or something, but I'm actually not accomplishing anything. I'm just messing and gammon.
That's interesting. When I was little, messing and gammon, I heard like when you're eating, just like you're being gluttonous. Like you're just like
Uh,
messing and gammon. That's what my mom would always say. Um, Lastly, what's it like to, this is a special question for you. What's it like to teach English in the Boot Hill?
it's difficult because grammar is not really taught anymore at all. Like when I was in high school or when I was in college, I had to take a class where you all we did was diagram sentences, and it became very difficult once you started diagramming sentences. My high school English teacher was actually German, and she said she understood and knew the English language better than we did, and that was true. Uh, I think to convince kids the importance of grammar and understanding that it does matter once you leave Southeast Missouri is very difficult for them to understand. And so teaching writing is the hardest thing. Um, because even though I say things and I have my phrases and I have a heavy accent, you're not going to read a paper where I've written anything like that. And you do have students who can't differentiate that, and they never really do. They don't understand that. So it's hard.
Yeah, that's understandable. Um, yeah. Well, we're actually kind of getting this you'll find this quite interesting. We're actually like they're really pushing to teach us to like encourage student voice in writing, and that has kind of become a shift away from the traditional grammar rules. And I'm glad that you brought that up because you're contributing to the conversation that we've been having of like, should we have it or should we be teaching this? And where should we be teaching this? Like, should we be, highlighting that sometimes you're going to use it this way and then sometimes it's okay to speak how you normally would. But yeah.
Right. Yes. Well, I think if they're writing a narrative, then maybe the dialect could be appropriate. But I think in formal writing, they can definitely still have a voice and a personality without grammatical errors.
Yeah.
I
I
don't know. I can see how there's a shift, but I also know that I am heavily discriminated against. I think that initially, when people hear me talk, even if I am speaking grammatically correct with my heavy accent, that their initial first assumption is that I'm not as intelligent. And that's been a pretty big issue for me. I feel like my whole life mixed with being a female. And so I think adding what you're talking about, it could be beneficial, but in some ways it could be a drawback. It just depends on what voice they're adding.
yeah. I 1000% I've like been pushing for a highlight on that because I'm like, y'all don't understand. There are people that hold high levels of intelligence, but you won't even listen because of the way they sound. And
Right.
in addition to that, a lot of times I think there's like just a negative view upon Southern people in general and like those jobs that tend to go with like Southern people. So like farmers, I really highlighted the intelligence it takes to be a farmer because it's not recognized enough and the planning and the organizational skills and it's stuff like that. But yeah. Well, is there anything you'd like to add to close in about the Boot Hill?
Hmm. I mean, I can't really think of anything. I know that, there's a lot of great authors and some very good stories that they have told. And um, like for instance, even J.D. Vance, his hillbilly elegy tale is that it's all about breaking cycles, I think, when you live somewhere like this, and it's a difficult thing to do more so than other places.
Yeah, I
I
guess.
know that doesn't necessarily relate to the linguistics thing, but
No, it's
it
okay.
kind of does all in a nutshell. Just
Yeah. All,
communication in general and things like that.
yeah, for sure. It's a little bit different. Alrighty. Well, thank you so very much. I'm gonna stop the recording now.